Hello, my friend. My name is Bam. I'm 23 years old. I started learning English 5 months ago. Today, I can speak to you like this. But 5 months ago, I was afraid to say even one sentence. Not because I didn't want to speak, but because I couldn't. My voice would disappear when I tried. My thoughts would break into pieces. I arrived in the city at the end of January. It was cold, windy. I had 2 suitcases and one big dream: to study here, to work, and to speak English like everyone else. On my first day in the city, I took the subway. I sat near the door. People around me were speaking English fast and loud. They laughed, talked on the phone, listened to music. I looked at the signs. I couldn't read them fast enough. I looked at their mouths, how easily the words came out. Someone next to me asked a question. I didn't understand. I smiled and said, "Yes," but I didn't know what I had just agreed to. He looked confused. I looked away. That night, in my small room, I felt tired but could not sleep. I took out my phone and looked at a video. Basic English sentences for beginners. The video said, "Hello, my name is..." I paused the video. I stood in front of the mirror. "Hello, my name is..." I couldn't finish the sentence. My voice was quiet. My throat felt tight. I tried again. "Hello, my name is Bam." I said it again and again. I looked into my own eyes in the mirror. I saw fear, but I also saw something else. A small light. A small fight. The next morning, I went to my first class. I sat in the back. The teacher spoke slowly at first, but even her slow felt fast to me. She asked, "Who wants to read?" I looked down, but she said, "Bam, would you like to try?" I stood up. I tried to read the sentence on the board. "The boy is playing in the garden." My lips moved, but the words didn't come out. Someone laughed, not loud, but loud enough. My face burned. I sat down. I wanted to disappear. That evening, I skipped dinner. I opened my notebook and looked at the words I didn't understand. Then I walked to the mirror again. "Hello, my name is Bam." "My name is Bam. I want to speak English." I didn't cry, but my eyes were full. I stayed there talking to myself for 20 minutes. The sentences were small, but they felt like a fight. Not just against the language, but against the fear inside me. This is my story. How I learned English in 5 months. Not from books only, but from silence, mistakes, shame, and the will to keep going. Maybe it's your story too. It was still February. The air was cold, but not like home. This cold stayed in your bones, even when the sun was out. Every morning, I walked 10 minutes to school. I passed the same bakery, the same bookstore, the same man feeding birds near the fountain. But I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like a ghost walking through someone else's life. In class, I didn't speak. I listened. I watched. The words the teacher said moved too fast. And the other students, they laughed, talked, answered questions. I tried to follow the lesson. Sometimes I understood. Most of the time, I didn't. One Monday morning, the teacher pointed to a sentence on the screen. She said, "Let's practice reading today. Who can read this aloud for us?" The room was quiet. I could feel my heart beating. Then she smiled at me. "Bam, would you like to try?" I froze. I looked at the words on the screen. "The girl is reading a book in the library." Simple sentence. I had practiced these words before. I stood up. My hands were cold. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I tried again. The girl is... My voice broke. I couldn't say reading. Someone behind me whispered something. Then a small laugh. Not loud, but it hit me hard. The teacher said softly, "It's okay. You can sit down, Bam." I sat down. I looked at the floor. I wanted to run. That night, I stayed in my room. My roommate asked if I wanted to go out for dinner. I said no, thank you. I wasn't hungry. I took out my notebook. I read some words again. Library, book, read, at speak, try. But the words didn't feel like mine. I stood up and went to the mirror. I looked at myself. My eyes looked tired. My mouth was quiet. My heart felt full, but not in a good way. It felt full of fear. I whispered, "Hello, my name is Bam. I'm learning English. I am not stupid, I just need more time." I said the same sentence again, then another. I want to speak. I want to belong. I want people to hear me. The words were small, but each one felt like lifting something heavy. I stayed in front of the mirror for 20 minutes. When I stopped, I didn't feel proud, but I felt real. I opened my notebook and wrote 3 things. 1, I tried. 2, I didn't quit. 3, I will try again tomorrow. I closed the notebook and turned off the light. Outside, the city was quiet. Inside, I felt something move, a little stronger than before. It was late February when I started working part-time at a small cafe near my school. I needed the money, and I thought maybe it would help me practice English. I was nervous, but I said yes to the job. My first day, I wore a dark green apron. The cafe smelled like coffee and warm bread. There were soft jazz songs playing and the sound of machines steaming milk. It was busy, fast, loud. My job was simple: take orders at the counter and keep the tables clean. But nothing felt simple when people spoke English quickly. That afternoon, a woman came in. She wore a long brown coat and talked fast. She said, "Hi, can I get a double-shot soy latte with light foam, no sugar?" I blinked. I understood latte. That was all. The rest felt like wind rushing past my ears. I didn't want to look confused. I didn't want to look weak. So I just said, "Okay," and typed something into the machine. I gave the receipt to the barista. 5 minutes later, the woman came back. She looked upset. "This has sugar," she said, "Key. I asked for no sugar." I looked at the cup. I looked at her. My stomach felt heavy. "I'm sorry," I said. My manager came over. He smiled at her, apologized, and gave her a new drink. Then he turned to me. "Bam," he said, not angry, but serious. "It's okay to ask. Don't guess. If you don't understand, ask them to repeat." He wrote something on a small piece of paper. He gave it to me. It said, "Could you say that again, more slowly, please?" "Practice this," he said. "Say it kindly. People will help you." That night, after work, I was tired, but I didn't go to bed right away. I sat on the edge of my bed and took out the small paper. "Could you say that again, more slowly, please?" I said it aloud, then again, then 10 more times. I walked to the mirror. I stood straight and looked at myself. I said, "Could you say that again, more slowly, please?" It felt soft in my mouth at first, but then stronger. I added other sentences. "I'm still learning English. Thank you for your patience. I want to understand." Each sentence felt like a piece of armor, like I was building myself again. Before sleeping, I opened my notebook. I wrote a new page. Today I learned. Don't guess. Ask. It's okay to not understand. One good sentence is better than silence. I put the small paper in my wallet. I told myself, this sentence is my tool, my protection. Learning English was not just about knowing words. It was about knowing how to ask, even when you are scared. That night, I slept better. Because I knew I didn't fail. I learned. The days were getting longer. March came, but the wind still felt cold. Some days I watched cherry blossoms start to open near the park across from the cafe. I wondered, will I also open like that? Or will I stay closed forever? Every night, after work or class, I opened my small brown notebook. It wasn't a school notebook. This one was just for me. Inside, I wrote all the words I didn't understand during the day. Words I heard on the bus. Words I saw on cafe menus. Words my classmates said. One day, a student next to me in class said, "I'm so over it." I didn't know what that meant, so I wrote it down. Next to each word or phrase, I drew something, a sad face, a question mark, a small picture of how I felt. Sometimes I wrote things like, "Why is this word used here? Is this polite? Do people say this to be friendly or rude?" It was not just a vocabulary list. It was a book of emotions. I called it my notebook of fears. One night in mid-March, I stayed late at the cafe. After closing, I sat by the window with my notebook and a cup of warm tea. My manager walked by and looked at my notes. He said, "Wow, you're really working hard." I smiled. Then I asked, "What does 'I'm so over it' mean?" He laughed gently. "It means someone is tired of something or annoyed." "Oh," I said, "so it's not about going over something?" He shook his head. "Nope, that's a tricky one." I laughed a little too. It felt good to laugh at English, not just fear it. He added, "Sometimes, even native speakers don't know all the rules, so don't be afraid to ask." That night, I wrote a new sentence in bold at the back of my notebook. Even native speakers don't know everything. You are not alone. At home, I lay in bed with my notebook open beside me. I turned to one page. There was a word I had written on my first week. Invisible. Next to it, I had drawn a small person behind glass. I remembered that feeling. But now, I didn't feel fully invisible anymore. Still scared, still small, but not invisible. That night, I started a new section in my notebook. I titled it, Small Wins. On the first line, I wrote, 1. I asked for help today. 2. I laughed with someone in English. 3. I'm still here. The notebook of fears was slowly becoming a notebook of progress. It was a Friday in late March. The sun finally felt warm. Students were sitting outside on the grass, eating snacks, laughing, talking. I wanted to join them, but I stayed near the steps alone, holding a sandwich and watching from a distance. I heard a group speaking English, loud and fast. They were talking about a TV show, something funny. One of them said, "I was dying when he said that." Everyone laughed. I didn't understand the joke, but I wanted to laugh too. I wanted to be part of them. So I took a breath, and I walked over. I smiled and said, "Excuse me, can I sit here?" A girl with red headphones said, "Yeah, of course." I sat. I felt like my heart was beating in my ears. They kept talking. I tried to follow, but I didn't know many of the words. Then someone said to me, "What shows do you like?" I froze. My brain went empty. I wanted to say, "I like documentaries," but I said, "I like document, doctor movies." They looked confused. Someone laughed. Another whispered something I didn't hear clearly. My face turned red. The girl with the headphones said quickly, "Oh, you mean documentaries?" I nodded. "Yes, that's it," she smiled kindly. But someone else said, "Doctor movies like people in hospitals?" Then laughed again. I stood up fast. "Sorry," I said, and walked away. I didn't wait to hear what anyone else said. My heart hurt too much. In the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were wet. I hated this. I hated that I tried, and I still felt stupid. I hated that one mistake made everything fall apart. I thought, maybe I should just stop trying. Just then, the door opened. It was the girl with the red headphones. She saw me and said, "Hey, are you okay?" I didn't answer. She said, "I'm sorry about what they said. That was rude, but I understood you. You're doing fine." I looked at her. "You speak better English than I speak your language," she added, laughing softly. I smiled a little. "I always make mistakes," I said. "We all do," she replied. "I'm from Canada and I still mess up." We stood in silence for a moment. Then she said, "I think it's brave that you joined the group. Most people don't." Her words felt soft, like a warm blanket. Before she left, she said, "Next time you want to talk, come sit with me." That night, I didn't cry. I opened my notebook. I went to the small wins page. I added, 4, I joined a group. 5, I made a mistake and stayed. 6, I found someone kind. I also made a new list. Things I want to say next time. I like documentaries. I'm still learning, so I may say something wrong. What do you like to watch? Mistakes still hurt, but now I knew. One bad moment doesn't mean I'm not learning. And not everyone will laugh. Some people will listen. Some people will stay. The days were longer now. The sky stayed light until evening, but inside me everything still felt heavy. After the doctor movie Mistake, I didn't speak much in class. I listened, I wrote notes, I smiled, but I was scared to open my mouth. At night, I couldn't sleep. Even when I closed my eyes, my brain kept going. Why did you say that? Why didn't you just stay quiet? What if you make another mistake tomorrow? One night near the end of March, I woke up at 1:17 a.m. I looked at the clock glowing red on the wall. I felt a strange energy in my chest, like I needed to do something. I couldn't lie in bed anymore, so I got up. The room was quiet. My roommate was sleeping. I put on my hoodie and walked to the small kitchen. Then I went to the mirror. It was the same mirror I had used that first week. I looked at myself. The light was soft. My eyes looked tired, but more alive. I whispered, "Hello, my name is Bam, I'm learning English." Then I opened the YouTube app on my phone. I found a podcast for English beginners. I put in one earphone and pressed play. The voice said, "Today we talk about daily routines. Listen and repeat." The speaker said, "I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat breakfast." I whispered after each one. I started to shadow, copying the speaker's voice, speed, rhythm. I wake up. I wake up. I brush my teeth. I brush my teeth. I did this for 20 minutes. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I didn't stop. After that, I found an English video with subtitles. I picked a short one. How to introduce yourself in English. I paused after each sentence and repeated it out loud. I even copied the hand movements, the smile, the tone. I said, "Nice to meet you. I'm from Thailand." "I love learning new languages," I whispered. Then I said it louder, over and over. When I looked at the clock again, it was 2:10 a.m. I felt tired, but also calm. My head didn't feel heavy anymore. I looked in the mirror again. I said softly, "You're not perfect, but you're trying. That's enough for tonight." I went back to bed. I fell asleep quickly this time. In the morning, I added something new to my notebook. New method. Midnight English shadowing, repeating, whispering, copying real voices. I wrote, "Learn with your ears, not just your eyes. Repeat until your mouth remembers." I didn't feel brave in class yet, but something was changing. I was no longer learning English only during the day. Now, even in the dark, I was building something inside me. Word by word, sentence by sentence. It was the first week of April. The sky was brighter, flowers were blooming along the sidewalk, but inside me, everything felt cloudy. In class, the teacher said, "Next week, each of you will give a short presentation, 2 minutes long, in English." My heart dropped. She continued, "You can choose any topic, your home, your favorite food, a memory. Just speak clearly and try your best." The room filled with noise. Students talked, laughed, wrote down ideas. But I sat still. A presentation, in front of people, in English. I tried to breathe slowly. "You have 7 days," I told myself. That night, I opened my notebook. I wrote 3 ideas. My favorite food, spicy noodles. A memory, my first day in the city. A person I admire, my grandmother. I picked the last one. She was the only person who always believed in me. So I wrote, "I want to talk about my grandmother." The first draft was full of mistakes, but I didn't stop. I wrote simple sentences. She was strong. She worked hard every day. She told me, "Try again. Don't stop." Every night I practiced, first in my room, then in front of the mirror, then quietly on the bus, then using my voice memo app, recording and listening again and again. The night before the presentation, I could not sleep. I stood in front of the mirror at midnight just like before. I said, "My name is Bam. Today I want to talk about someone very special." I kept going line by line, but halfway through, I stopped. My voice cracked. What if I freeze? What if they laugh again? I sat on the floor. I looked at my notes. I almost tore the page out. Then I remembered something I wrote in my notebook weeks ago. "I will try again tomorrow." I stood up. One more time. This time, I said the whole speech. Slow, soft, clear. Then I whispered, "You can do this, Bam." The next day in class, I waited as others gave their presentations. Some were funny, some were serious. Some students forgot their words and laughed. Then the teacher called my name. "Bam, you're next." I walked to the front. I held my paper, but didn't look at it. I looked at the class. Then I began. "Hello, my name is Bam. Today I want to talk about someone very special to me, my grandmother." My voice shook a little, but I kept going. I made a small mistake on one word, but I smiled, corrected it, and moved on. I said, "She was not rich, she was not famous, but she was strong. She taught me to be brave. I want to make her proud." At the end, I said, "Now I speak English, not perfectly, but I try, and that is because of her." The class was quiet. Then they clapped. Not loud, not fake, real. The teacher smiled. She said, "Thank you, Bam. That was beautiful." I sat down. My hands were shaking, but I felt light. For the first time in months, I didn't just hope I belonged. I felt it. After the presentation, something changed. It was small, like a quiet switch inside me. But it changed how I walked through the world. I wasn't fluent. I still made mistakes. But I no longer waited for perfect English to speak. Now I tried to use English every day, outside the classroom, in real life, on the street, at the cafe, at the grocery store. I called this learning in the wild. One morning I went to buy a coffee before class. The cashier smiled and said, "Good morning, what can I get for you?" I smiled back. "I'd like a small cappuccino, please." He asked, "Any sugar?" I said, "No thank you, no sugar." I paid. He said, "Coming right up." I walked away and smiled. I had just had a real conversation in English. No guessing, no fear, no hiding. Later that week, I got lost in a big bookstore. I wanted to find the language section but couldn't read the signs clearly. Instead of giving up, I asked a worker, "Excuse me, where's the English learning books?" He said, "Oh, English learning? It's on the second floor, to the left." I said, "Thank you," and I felt like a winner. That evening, I met a classmate near the school cafe. She was in my presentation class. "Hey, Bam," she said. "I liked your story about your grandmother." I smiled and said, "Thank you, I was very nervous." She laughed. "Yeah, me too, but you did great." We sat together for a while. She asked, "How long have you been learning English?" 5 months, I said. Before, I couldn't speak much. She looked surprised. "Wow, that's really fast." I shook my head. "Not fast, just many hours and many mistakes." She nodded. "That's how we all learn." We talked about music, school, and favorite food. I made 2 small grammar mistakes, but she didn't laugh. She just kept talking to me. I felt something warm in my chest. This was not a class. This was not practice. This was real. At home, I opened my notebook and wrote, "Learning in the wild moments." Ordered coffee correctly. Asked for help at the bookstore. Had a real talk with a classmate. Then I added, "Mistakes don't stop me anymore. People understand me, even when I'm not perfect." For months, I thought the classroom was the only place to learn. But now I saw the world was my teacher, and I was ready to listen. It was mid-April when I noticed something strange. I had a dream, but this time, the people in my dream were speaking English. Not perfect English, not fast, but still English. I woke up slowly that morning, blinking at the ceiling. I smiled to myself. Did I just dream in English? It felt like a small light turned on inside me. That weekend, I bought a new notebook. Not for fears, not for mistakes. This one was for something new. I called it the Dream Journal. Inside, I wrote short sentences, small stories, and ideas. All in English. The first story I wrote was just 1 paragraph. A boy walks alone in a big city. He feels scared. But each day, he says 1 word, then 2, then many, and one day, someone hears him and answers. I didn't care about grammar. I didn't care about perfect words. I just wrote. Later, I posted 1 story online in a language group. The title was "The Day I Said My First Sentence." It was a story about me. The next day, someone replied, "Thank you for writing this. I feel the same." Another said, "I'm scared too, but your words helped me." I was shocked. My English, my simple, broken English, had helped someone else. That evening, I sat by the window in my room. The sky was orange. The air smelled like spring. I thought about something my grandmother once said. When your voice is small, speak anyway. Even the wind listens to brave people. The next week in class, the teacher said, "We are starting a podcast for English learners. Each student can record 1 short episode. You can share your learning story or read something you wrote." My heart started beating fast. This was scary, but it was also exciting. I raised my hand slowly. "I want to try," I said. The teacher smiled. "Wonderful, Bam, you're brave." After class, 1 student came to me and said, "I read your post online. That was you, right? The first sentence story?" I nodded. She said, "It helped me. Thank you." At home, I opened my dream journal again. I added a new section. Things I never thought I could do, but did. Dream in English. Write a story. Help someone else. Raise my hand in class. Then I wrote, "This is more than learning a language. This is learning how to be seen." I looked at the notebook cover. It didn't say perfect English. It didn't say no mistakes. It said dream. And that was enough. I learned English, and I learned to live my truth. Every word has power. You too can speak your heart. Never stop trying. I closed the notebook and whispered to myself, "Thank you, my friend, for listening."